hot summer for all the locals. Looking out from our vantage point, we can actually see across the Lincoln Haven in Highland, and looking very, very nice in that direction. Of course, we can look directly down the Strand from our perch. We are a little bit higher. Not as high as in previous years. I'm not sure what the reason for us to cut down sizes, but it's not a bad thing.
I think it's the age thing. They know I'm getting old now, so they put less steps.
That's right. So yes, we can see directly down the Strand from where we are, and that means that at this time they will be stepping off from Strand Park, and they'll be heading in essentially an easterly direction towards Anzac Park, which is the end that we are at, near the Tobruk Pool, which Michael was talking about a second ago, where that memorial for the Rats of Tobruk is as well. And of course, if you're familiar with the Strand in Townsville, you know the fountain, which is essentially on the other side of the road from where we are. Somewhat behind us, we have the dignitaries, so we'll have the reviewing officer and the dignitaries there as the parade makes its way past. And John, we're also looking forward to, and I think you especially are looking forward to, the fly past today, which we are going to have the Chinooks coming through in formation fairly soon.
Yes, unfortunately, Pat, I'm a bit biased. I used to be in C Squadron. In those days, they used to call it C Regiment, but I've got a long infinity and with the Chinook helicopter, a beautiful aircraft, and you'll see 3 of them fly past today, the latest model, the F model.
That's right, and you know, I'm interested in how much they've changed over the years because I know it's a lot, but I know they did a practice the other day. I live at South Townsville, so essentially when they do a practice, they fly over the Strand and then they fly over my roof. And I was actually lying down on the floor at home at the time, just having a little bit of a relax, and the whole house was shaking. So we're not going to be in any danger of missing them when they come past this morning. So I will just give that as a word of warning for everyone who's here on the Strand, that expect there to be a bit of noise when they come through.
Yes, and what's even worse, Pat, is when you're underneath it, trying to hook up an artillery piece with all the downdraft of the aircraft. It is quite interesting, and then you obviously get the static electricity, which tends to throw you off a little bit.
I'm not surprised. Oh, goodness me. So in terms of the aircraft itself, I believe it's 50 years since they first started being used by the Australian Defence Forces, but of course the units that have managed them and operated them over time has changed as well.
Yes, it started off with the RAAF. In fact, it used to be called 12 Squadron. And I had a little bit to do in my younger days in the Army with that squadron. And then it obviously transitioned into now an Army aircraft.
Well, looking across today, I think we've got quite a few groups that are coming. Of course, we will have a number of people at the front of the parade. I want to talk about that in a second. A number of groups at the front of the parade. Then we will have the serving personnel, then the rest of our veterans groups, and then community groups and what is the correct terminology for it? The groups that include the services that we have that we rely on so heavily in civilian life as well.
You know, I don't think we should ever forget our community services, our police, our fire brigade, Salvation Army, all those organisations that commit their time to the community on a daily basis, and a lot of those are also veterans that have been in over the years with the Defence Force.
That's it. I know you often see you mentioned the salvos, the Sally Man, and you will see them around Townsville at various things, and it's very much under the radar, but I've seen them up near the top of Mount Stewart. People are charging up there with their backpacks on, and just maybe 100 metres from the summit, maybe even a little bit further back than that, there's the Sally Man parked up just to give them that last little top up to get them to the top. You know, I think that speaks volumes, and that gives you an idea of the sort of role that they play.
Look, the Sally Man, I can always remember on exercise up at high range, and you'd be covered in dust, and you hadn't washed for a few days, and there was the Sally Man with his Juby juice and a couple of biscuits, and they were always fantastic to see, and their commitment to this day is unreal.
Absolutely. We do talk every year, and look, honestly, I remember this being a conversation when I was a child, growing up and learning about Anzac Day. We talk about the way that, of course, the people from different conflicts, well, time marches on. None of us get any younger, do we? And we do see that being a recurring theme. And I think one of the things that I've seen in one of the groups that will be up the front, which is one of our veterans groups, they are saying, you know, if you are around and you're not connected with us, in particular, this is the national servicemen, they're saying, you know, if you're not connected with us, we would love to hear from you. And come along, join us. We have monthly meetings, and we want to be open and available for people who haven't, for whatever reason, been in touch over a period of time. And I think you've got some similar thoughts at the moment, John.
Look, I totally agree. We've also got the Vietnam Veterans Association. There's organisations out there that is an opportunity for our current veterans, no matter what age, to go there, to be able to talk like with other veterans. And I think it's an opportunity for them to relax and free of charge. And it's an opportunity for them to, if they have issues, to get those resolved. And not just be alone, you need to share these.
That's the thing, and we know that if we talk about Anzac Day, marching is not something that all veterans will want to do, and that's perfectly okay. There's no problem with any of that. But it doesn't mean that you're not welcome in any other aspects that can, really enrich the experience of being a veteran in a community like ours that is as welcoming as it is to veterans and their families.
And look, it can be as simple as just with a few of your mates having a cup of coffee. Before the marchers step off, Pat, I'd just like to take this opportunity for those attending this march, all the crowd out there, and for those listening on the podcast, to take some time and just think about their family history. And I would be very surprised if you look back, you would not find some of your relatives, both close and distant, who have served in the Australian Defence Forces during World War I, World War II, Korea, Malay confrontation, Vietnam, and our current generation who have served in places like Timor, Afghanistan, Iraq, just to name a few places. But as you view the march and listen to the commentary, please reflect on your families and relatives who have served. Here we are today commemorating Anzac Day, a milestone, I believe, in Australia's history, for the first time when Australian and New Zealand forces combined landed at a place called Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915 under one command and their first campaign together. In my opinion, in many aspects, this was the birth of our nation on the values we hold so dearly. Our youth answered the call to arms as part of the British Empire. We as a nation, I believe we must keep commemorating Anzac Day for our past and present Defence Force members who march proudly today wearing their medals. There's many gaps in their ranks, but they are all there together in spirit, and their children and family members proudly march in their place, ensuring that their sacrifices and their legacy is never forgotten, lest we forget.
Well said, John. Do we find that people, especially with your involvement with the Army Museum over so many years, you would have encountered people who are doing that and trying to find out more about their family's history and involvement with the Defence Forces. How difficult or easy is it to piece things together if you don't have a complete picture yourself?
Look, as long as you've got the regimental number or just their full name, the museum has some computers set up there where people can go and hopefully get online, either through the Army War Memorial or through other aspects online. And there's volunteers out there will help where they can, but you must at least have their full name and hope for the regimental number, and we can trace back. There's still some caveats on some of the people in World War II. As an example, my father was a World War II veteran in the RAF. I still cannot find out any information on him because of the time period since that's elapsed.
Unfortunately, that's the way it works with so many records, not just within Defence, but in general. Trying to piece together family histories can be quite a process for anyone who's tried it. You'll appreciate what I'm talking about there. You're with ABC North Queensland. My name's Pat Hessian, and here with me, Major John Lavery, retired. We're with you on the Strand in Townsville for the Anzac Day Parade. They've stepped off at Strand Park, I should say, at 9 o'clock on the dot, which is 9 minutes ago. So any moment now we should start to get our first glimpses of them as we look down past Tobruk Pool in the direction of Strand Park, which is where they're coming from. Let's go back to the lead groups in the parade today. Because generally speaking, the order of marching and the groups that lead, it's not an accident. Groups are chosen for a particular reason. It might be, a centenary or an anniversary of some sort. Today we've got a number of those groups that are going to be up front, and they've got pride of place for good reason, John.
And look, it's really good to see in that first group, and once again we've got the Vietnam Return Service mounted in vehicles that obviously through various medical reasons cannot march today. And once again the Historical Vehicle Club Townsville is there to have those people in their vehicles, and you'll see their vehicles are all done up, World War II, etc. vehicles. Then the National Servicemen Association, followed by the TPIs, the Total Permanently Disabled, and then last but not least...
Certainly not least.
Not least is it's two actually, International Forces East Timor and Vietnam Veterans. And I think it's fantastic that we've got recognition. Vietnam veterans for a long time, through various issues, didn't get the recognition I believe they deserved. Now they're there, and as I said, unfortunately our Vietnam veterans are now probably the oldest members on the parade, and it's really good to give them the honour in that first group, same as International Force East Timor, and we'll talk more about those, but that virtually with Interfet from 1999 to 2000, and it was led by Major General Peter Cosgrove. I think we all know that. We've even named a suburb after him. But it was one of the largest rapid mobilisations that the Defence Force has done in many years, and from Interfet we've then continued on with UNTAYET for quite a while.
That's right, a number of UN peacekeeping missions. So that, doing the maths for you, 1999, it is 25 years since Interfet went into East Timor. And on the 20th of September, that's the actual date where East Timor will celebrate its 25 years of independence. So the international force that the Australians were a part of are very much being honoured today by being given a role towards the front of the parade. I guess, you know, we also think about the 25 years, but the deployments to East Timor were from 1999 to 2012. 2012 is pretty recent history, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and you know, and add on to that, as I said earlier on in my talk earlier, Australian Defence Force has been in operation since 1999, continuous. Add to that Afghanistan, Iraq, and let's not forget also the monitors. I was also fortunate enough to be over with UNSO in the Middle East. It's a lot changed since I was there, thank God. Well, maybe not. We should not forget our peacekeepers, our peace enforcements, and those other defence members that are deployed around the world currently. That's
right, and even before that continuous deployment, we had forces that were called upon, and really was a shift of gear in the earlier 90s with Rwanda and Somalia, and we will definitely see some veterans who were there and were deployed as part of those commitments back, you know, what is really starting to be quite a few years ago.
Yes, unfortunately. It's another interesting thing, Pat. We commemorate our veterans, but we also should be looking at those that serve in the Defence Force that might not have been deployed. They give up a lot of their time, their family, and they're dedicated to whatever Army, Navy or Air Force. So we shouldn't forget those also.
Well, looking down the Strand now, we can see the first of the lights coming towards us. So the crowd is certainly looking quite healthy here today. We've got plenty of people on the Strand in Townsville ready to acknowledge our serving and veteran communities, as well as our community support groups. And towards the end of the parade, we will have the school groups that are coming through as well. But we can see the police with their flashing lights leading off the parade. We had a couple of the... I'm actually surprised I can't see them. We had a couple of the Bushmasters parked here when I arrived. I can't imagine they've hidden them.
No, I think they're just sentries behind us still. I think they're still there.
Yes, they're not exactly inconspicuous. Yeah, they'll be around somewhere too. You've got to keep your eyes peeled when you're in a place like this today.
It's interesting to note too, Pat, we talked a little bit about the National Service and being in that first group. More than 280,000 Australian men and boys were called up to serve during the National Service between 1951 and 72. And as I said, their ages vary from 71 to 90, but they're proud to be called National Service, and the term is Nashos. And the Townsville branch is 140 members. And as you said earlier on, Pat, they're open for people that want to go there, have a cup of coffee and just talk.
That's right. So giving them the plug, they have their meetings at second Wednesday of the month at the RSL in Townsville, 11 o'clock in the morning. So very civilised hour to be out and about if you are there. And they really are encouraging you, if you are connected with the National Servicemen and you were part of that group, if you haven't been connected with them, they really do want to make sure that invitation is extended to you to come and be a part of their ranks and to have that camaraderie. Well, we can see the first of the military vehicles from the Military and Historic Vehicles Club of Townsville starting to move their way past the Tobruk pool. We can also see the crowd moving forward. Everyone's obviously standing back a little bit, but now moving up more to the side of the road in preparation for the parade to come past where we are here.
It's interesting to note too, Pat, that historic vehicle group was formed way back in 1981. And as I said earlier on, you'll see their vehicles have been restored and they just look fantastic. And they do that every year.
Absolutely. In fact, I saw one of them in traffic the other day, so they might have been going for a test run just to make sure everything was ship-shape. Because like we've mentioned a couple of times, the vehicles aren't getting any younger either, John.
No, they're not. And look, led by that old motorcycle. Look at the condition of that is just unreal.
Most definitely. I'm always impressed because riding at quite a slow pace is easier said than done.
Parade Commander, as you probably just heard, is given the eyes right. This is the opportunity for all people, and you'll see it through the whole parade, that people will turn their head and eyes to the right to acknowledge the reviewing officer. And the old reviewing officer, unfortunately, will have to have their hand up there for a long time. And I know the feeling, and it gets quite hard and sore, but that's the reason for that. And they look him dead in the eye.
Indeed, and the reviewing officer today, who you also heard from a little while ago, Colonel Boniface Aruma, DMS, who's the Deputy Commander of 3rd Brigade. You may have heard along the way that the Brigadier, I believe, is actually in PNG at the moment.
Yes, so I believe.
And the Brigadier would normally be in that role. So we see some of our veterans coming past, giving a wave, and of course getting a round of applause and plenty of waves in return. And Dutchie up the front in the sidecar.
Dutchie's always there up the front. He'll be there for years to come. And you'll notice at the front of each vehicle, Pat, there's also the name of the people in the vehicle, plus their unit, which is really great to see.
That's right. Notice New Zealand mentioned on one of the vehicles that just came past. Of course, one of the things we do need to constantly remind ourselves of is the fact that there's an NZ in Anzac.
Yes, and we should never forget that. They've been with our Defence Force through many a conflict.
That's right, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Very impressive display from the military vehicles today. I think this is the one I saw in traffic the other day. It's a different colour to all the others, so it's a bit more memorable.
Yes, it's a desert colour.
We also have a number of buses that are coming through, and again bring some of the veterans who would have marched, but for various reasons that's not possible for them, so they're still participating in their own way, and I can hear something coming
I'm definitely showing my age, Pat. You'll see this Land Rover with 43. I probably rode in this as it goes past now. All right, here's the National Service Association in the bus, Army, Navy and Air Force.
That's right, so the first of the buses for the National Servicemen, and the second of those is for the TPI.
Yes, and the TPI, you'd just be surprised just how many TPIs we have in our country at the moment.
Okay, well here we have the first of the marching groups, and we actually have the Chinooks coming towards us as well by the sounds of things, but leading through we actually have the Interfet and the East Timor veterans coming through today.
And there's our CH-47s, 3 of them in beautiful formation and on time. You can hear the roar.
You can feel it, John. You can't just hear it. But yes, perfectly on time. I'm glad you noted that.
And here we have the Vietnam veterans, and they're marching as a complete group, as one group, marching under the single banner of Vietnam.
The Delta Devils in there too.
There's old mate of mine, old Russell Gordon. Keeping an eye on him.
You're getting some feedback there too, I think, John.
Yeah, probably not good.
Some good words of advice coming through. That's nice.
All right, now we have the form body of our 3rd Brigade. It's interesting to note the 3rd Brigade was a brigade that landed at Gallipoli, comprising of Queenslanders, Victorians, South Australians. So this brigade has a proud history, and you'll see that the colours are also there, and you'll see it's led by 2 of our ASLAVs. And the groups that are coming through, Pat, will be the 2nd Cavalry Regiment, 4th Regiment Royal Australian Artillery, 3rd Combat Signals Regiment, 1st Battalion, 1st and 3rd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, 3rd Combat Engineer and the Combat Service Support Battalions.
And of course the band.
You'll see there, Pat, the combined colours. And a very angry eagle.
That's right, they've got their mascot here with them today. They don't always make it. They have been known to play up the mascots.
Yes, that was called Courage. Well, I don't know if he's been promoted. I have to check on that.
Okay, well hopefully there's no repercussions for playing up in front of the dignitaries as they were coming past here today.
It's interesting to note that just recently, last Sunday, our Defence Force up here did all that run along the Strand for legacy. So a lot of these soldiers were probably running last week, and here they are marching proudly today, all in step, and they should be proud of the uniform they're wearing.
That's right, and as mentioned in the dawn service just behind us in Anzac Park this morning, the 3rd Brigade, who are part of the group that is coming past us right now, were there in the initial landings in Gallipoli and participated in some of those extremely well-known battles, such as Lone Pine, that we are all familiar with, at least in name, if not having been there and paid our respects in person.
It's also interesting to note that they were one of the last units to serve in Afghanistan 100 years later.
We now have the Royal Australian Air Force contingent coming through today, led by Wing Commander Paul Howell, and a sizable contingent from the Air Force today, I've got to say. So a number of different groups and being represented here.
Yeah, 65 Air Base Recovery Squadron, 27 Squadron and 383 Squadron. It's interesting to note that 65 Air Recovery was formed back in 2015. And some of these go back to units go back to World War II. And you'll see also they have their dogs, and these dogs are just unreal. What they do, they're military working dogs. I think they're even in step too, Pat.
Yes, I've heard plenty of stories about those dogs, how important they are, and not just for ceremony, that's for sure. They're actively involved in the defence of and the guarding of the RAF base of Townsville. We
should also realise that those Air Force units, some of them served in East Timor in 1999 as part of Infantry, and they continue to serve throughout the various conflicts. They also keep peacekeeping and humanitarian.
Next we have the RSL Memorial Pipes and Drums. Let's have a listen to them for a second.
It's interesting to note with that band there, they wear a blue tarp of Clan Elliot, chosen to this link with the early settlement of Townsville.
Following them, we have the Naval Association of Australia and a number of groups here, but the naval contingent at least. Anyway, we've got the Naval Association of Australia, formed in 1921. We also have the Black Hats coming in after them.
Yeah, the Black Hats. It's interesting to note, they've had those Black Hats. They were introduced back in the 1930s, and it's very hard to get in and out of an armoured vehicle with a slouch hat, hence the Black Hats, berets.
We've got the signallers next. Now, the North Queensland Racings, I'm actually not familiar with the pronunciation for this one.
Royal Australian 6.
Royal Australian 6.
Yes, and they've been with Fur Brigade since 1966. And again, they've served on all the operations.
We've got the Infantry Corps coming through now, so the 1 RAR Association. Following them, we've got the 2 RAR Association.
The Royal Australian Infantry Corps, they've been in operations since 1950. Korea, Malaya, Vietnam, Somalia, Rwanda, as you mentioned earlier on, East Timor, Afghanistan, Iraq, Bougainville, Cambodia, to the current operations.
That's
they have
right.
a proud history.
Another one of those that was in there 25 years ago in East Timor for Interfet. And that's the sound of the 3 RAR.
3 RAR, commonly known as the Old Faithful, given to them while they served in Korea at Capion. Second 4th Battalion, again, they've been, during the life they served as a link battalion, 1973 to 1995.
31st Battalion Association, and they go back to the Kennedy Regiment as the original infantry unit of Townsville in North Queensland, links back to 1885.
They were based at Kazim Barracks, Kissing Point, and they retained their loyalties to the North Queensland and the unit, a proud history.
And we also had in there the Australian Rifle Company Association. The Townsville Citizens Brass Band, going strong for more than 100 years.
Now, we also had what we known as the Termites, and they operated on the ships, the docks, throughout World War II, right up to current operations.
And we have the Health Service Veterans, also with connections to East Timor, as well as Afghanistan.
Royal Australian Electrical Mechanical Engineers, the Army would not, or the Defence would not be able to, Army would not be able to run without their expertise in looking after our vehicles and all our equipments. I see our friends are coming back for a second bite. We've also got our military police, and they're essential for the command and control through law enforcement, and obviously setting up in operations, as well as discipline, civilian law, and provide support, security and operations of internment camps. And their motto is for the troops, with the troops.
The Australian Army Association coming past us now as we have more of our veterans groups coming through.
I think there might have been a couple out of order there earlier on, Pat, going by our notes.
It did get a little bit hard to keep up there. I'm glad it's not just me, John.
Yeah. National Service Association, they were called, as I said earlier on, 51 to 60 and then 65 to 72. And we owe a lot to our national servicemen who were called up and then sent in a lot of cases over to Vietnam, Malaya and Papua New Guinea.
And the Torres Strait Association?
This is a very interesting organisation. As I said, they've just opened up a fantastic exhibition at the Army Museum, North Queensland. I encourage everybody to go and have a look at it.
And the Light Infantry following them too.
The RAF Association, that was established with the Army Flying Corps Association back in 1919. And this is interesting, the descendants of the Rats of Tobruk Association. They held the Libyan port of Tobruk against Afrika Korps during the siege of Tobruk in World War II. It lasted 242 days, finally coming to the end in December 7th, 1941. Women's Veterans Network Association, again, they do a fantastic job connecting past and present women who have served in the Australian Defence Force. Also,
more of the music from the Veterans and Families Pipe Band of Townsville, and coming in behind them, this looks like our cadets. So first of all, the TS Coral Sea Australian Navy Cadets. You can see them in their whites.
Formed in 1967, followed by the 15th Australian Army Cadet Unit, and they have a program for over 18,000 young adults from 13 to 18 years of age.
A similar age group for the 15th Australian Army Cadet Unit. They're in their camos, so we can spot them fairly easily as well, their distinctive look.
101st Squadron Australian Air Force Cadets, again, they formed in, established in 1950. A large contingent of them proudly marching.
Once again, we can hear the different leaders of the units calling their group to attention as they come past the reviewing officer.
Yeah, giving an eyes right, as I said, a mark of respect, and also...
we'll see many of them dip their hats as well, or take their hat off.
Yes.
We have some more of our community groups now, so we've got Alliance Française de Townsville. Everyone's here in force, which is wonderful to see, of course.
Girl Guides is the largest youth organisation for girls, with almost 4,000 youth members and 1,000 volunteers, leaders and adult members.
Including one of my daughters in there as well.
Yeah, look, she's waving away every time. It's good to see, Pat.
Got the sash out today, which is wonderful.
The Scots who have served. Scots have served is sponsored by the Townsville Scottish community, and for the current and past serving members with Scottish heritage. And you'll see the various tartans that they're wearing proudly.
A lot of tartan on show today. Maybe I'm just noticing it more. I don't know why, but It's definitely noticeable, and you can see all the different groups
Yes.
being represented with the various patterns in those tartans.
I see Jan Cooper there too. Hello, Jan.
Next up, we have the Scout Association of Australia, the Queensland branch, Kennedy region. Of course, contributing and promoting education of young people, achieving physical, intellectual, emotional, social and spiritual potentials.
It's interesting to note, as I said earlier on, Pat, with the schools and all these groups, have a look at the various medals that these young Australians are wearing proudly from their fathers, grandfathers, etc. It is really good to see.
And of course, we'll see more of that as the school groups come through in the next part of this parade.
University Hospital, they come together as a group to acknowledge and serve, continue to serve our nation.
Okay, we have the first of our schools here now. St Joseph's Catholic School at Mundingborough is the first one up. They're celebrating 100 years of Catholic education in Townsville. Again, there's no accident as to why the different schools are placed in the order that they are placed in.
And again, Hermit Park opened in 1924. And
So-
again, you'll find that a lot of these schools were various army used as bases during World War II.
That's right. So 100 years, the centenary for Hermit Park State School. Their motto, making a better world.
Townsville State High School, again, 100th anniversary. There's a lot of schools at their 100th anniversary this year.
That's right. They didn't move to their current location until 1965, but the school itself, 100 years this year.
And I tell you, a lot of these students would be siblings of current Defence Force members of Townsville.
That's the band, along with the students of Southern Cross Catholic College. We also have the Annandale Christian College, so some of the schools that are very much in proximity to Laverack Barracks.
Yes,
And,
they have a 42-year history.
Yeah, that's right, and very well represented with defence families and the students in those schools. We also have Annandale State School coming through.
The next one, which is an interesting one too, Pat, is the Belgium Garden School. It was originally named the Townsville North State School. Was situated in the suburb of German Gardens. Hence, first opened in 1887. And the suburb was renamed during the Great War in honour of a small gallant nation. Belgium was their ally, so the school renamed themselves the Belgian Garden School.
Good number of kids here from the Bowley Vale State School coming in from the northern suburbs. Of course, another one of those areas, I think it's half of Townsville, where there was an airstrip that was constructed there, used by the Defence Forces during the Second World War.
Yeah, both Army and Air Force. Calvary Christian College, again formed in 1978. They have over 1,000 students.
And here we have some of the kids from the Cranbrook State School. Was seen as the main defence school in the 80s and 90s until Annandale itself was opened in more recent history. Of course, still plenty of defence families connected and participating at Annandale, at Cranbrook I should say.
Garbett State School officially opened in 1932 in the suburb of Garbett. So they have close ties to the Townsville Airport and the RAF base.
In fact, you just got to look at the logo on their shirts and you can
Yes.
see.
Ignatius Park is an all-boys school. And again, a lot of the students head off to the military after attending that school. Again, just look at the various medals that some of these kids are having a hard time even standing up with the weight of their parents' grandfathers' medals.
Holy Spirit Catholic School. It was started with just one class back in 1969. Of course, they've grown a bit since then.
Yes, and they, during World War II, the United States 13th Station Hospital was based where their school is now located.
The Mundingborough State School is the next group.
I see there they've got a great flag at the front there with "Lest We Forget," a banner depicting our Australian soldiers, and obviously the poppy.
And it's one of the schools that was a key location during both of the World Wars, 1 and 2, with the school grounds being used for that. Marian Catholic School is here. Prep to Year 6, 380 students based in Currajong. A good number of them here today.
Northern Beaches State High School. It opens its doors in 1997 to 165 students and has grown to well over that amount, now with over 900. So as you can see, Townsville's moving north, Pat.
Exactly. They're all following you, John. Anuma State School are here as well. Of course, they're one of these schools, there are a few of them that we note at different times who aren't in the same location they were historically, but I think they're probably better for it in more modern premises where they are now.
And their 4 expectations is safe, respectful, resilient and successful.
The Railway Estates State School, they go back to 1916, so one of those long-established schools in Townsville. And one of the things that is in the folklore is that during the war years, the students had to have air raid practices in trenches that the students had dug at the school. It's just unimaginable today, isn't it?
It is, and you know, you've got to imagine Townsville in those days with gun emplacements along the Strand here, and the Townsville's on a war footing. And the next one is St Joseph College School of the Strand, and it's one of the oldest schools. It was established in 1873.
St Margaret Mary's College coming through, one of the girls' schools in Townsville, and they had their 60th anniversary in 2023, so they're very much still looking back to 1963 as the start of their heritage, and they continue to bring fine young ladies into the community.
Another drum corps here.
This is from the Pimlico State High School.
It's interesting to note, Pat, St Patrick's College, again, another very old school. That was founded in 1878, making it buildings the oldest in Townsville. And during World War II, the Strand buildings housed part of the Northern Command.
And we've got dueling drummers going at the moment. We're a bit caught in between two groups of drummers, but I'm not going to complain. I always appreciate the music. Looks like this next group we're going to have is from the Cathedral School. So, of course, that goes back to St Anne and St James.
As you noted before, Pat, you'll see that those wearing hats take their hats off, usually holding it over their heart in a mark of respect.
Well, we have a number of schools still to come, including this one here, the Thuringowa State High School.
Townsville Central State School is Townsville's oldest school. This year they will be celebrating their 156 years.
Gosh, it only seems like yesterday was their 150th. Oh dear. I think that's the theme of the day, John.
It's interesting. Townsville Grammar School has a proud history with the Australian Defence Force. 60 post grammarians, that's probably pronounced that wrong, gave their life for their country. So a very proud.
And we can see the students carrying.
Yes, isn't that unreal? They've carrying the pictures of their fallen.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier on in those words prior, families need to look back at their history, and there it is as it marched past us. Townsville West State School, again, 1887, making it the second oldest school in Townsville.
The old school building that is not the school anymore, showing signs of life these days, but of course the school is a little bit less out of sight, a little bit less in sight these days with it on the more modern campus, which is immediately behind. The Woolgooroo State School coming through, hello. As well as William Ross State High School.
And they're located opposite Laverack Barracks, and there's a lot of students, and 10% of students are, have a parent in the Australian Defence Force.
The Currajong State School, they're celebrating an anniversary this year too, 1954, so 70th anniversary for them, with the students being here in force. And we also have the Mudpickers, Townsville South State School, coming in to bring up the rear and represent the schools here today.
We talked earlier on, Pat, about the Salvation Army and the selling man arriving in every place that I've been on exercise in Australia with a friendly smile, a drink, a word of encouragement, and love their biscuits.
Yeah, when you need them most, especially if you need a cool drink on a hot day.
We talked earlier on about the last group being the emergency services. Queensland Fire and Emergency Service is a primary provider of fire and rescue, emergency management and disaster management and services for our Townsville. They do a magnificent job.
We've also got the State Emergency Service. For almost 50 years, members of Townsville and Thurrow and Gower have been proud to assist, of course, in plenty of peacetime situations, but plenty of times where things aren't exactly the way we'd like it to be, and they are there to help. The Orange Army comes through.
Rural Fire Service are unsung heroes. They're all volunteers, and they have a long, proud tradition of supporting our service people in our communities during Anzac Day commemorations.
Always love seeing the old fire engine come through. Of course, we've got the old and the new coming through, as well as one of the more rugged vehicles, which is used for getting off track, because they do get called into those sorts of situations, of course, as well.
And of course, the aviation rescue fire fighting, ready to fight fires in aircraft and airport buildings. Had a long association with them being Aviation Corps, and they do a fantastic job.
I really don't like it when they point that water cannon on the front of it at me, though.
As long as it's not loaded and we don't get wet. But last but not least, our Queensland Police Service. And I can't say enough. I think they're undervalued and underrated. Our police do a fantastic job in very difficult circumstances. I don't know what that was, Pat, that flew over then.
That's the rescue chopper.
Aha, good.
I had to turn my head around to have a look. Don't tell me it's the Chinooks again. No, it's not. Well, that is the conclusion of the parade itself. Of course, we can see people moving in many different directions now. It's a very interesting cross-section of the community, as we've got all the people who've been marching down towards here, who've obviously parked back up towards Anzac Park, who now have to make the trek down there. But of course, the people who've done it the opposite direction are also heading towards us from Strand Park towards Anzac Park.
Yeah, and now they'll continue on with the services down there. And look, it's really enlightening to see such a large crowd of people again on this most important day, commemorating our fallen, our people that have made the supreme sacrifice, and those that are marching and have defended our country.
Yeah, and that's a very big part of it. For everyone who's here today, thank you for being a part of it. And even if you're not here with us today, if you're in one of our surrounding communities, we know that these marches are going on all around the country, and in fact in plenty of places overseas as well. So thank you for being a part of it and paying your respects. Now, John, I know you mentioned there's a bit of activity up further at the other end of the Strand from us at Jazeen Barracks. The Army Museum of Queensland is about to open for the day.
Sorry, Pat, I over-voiced you.
couldn't
No,
wait.
look, the Army Museum North Queensland will be open 10 till 2. And as I said, it's interesting to go and see their fantastic, the whole museum, but their latest display with the Torres Strait Islanders. But that museum up there actually showcases all what we've seen today. I don't know if the RAF-based museum's open today. I'm not sure of that, but as again, a little bit biased, Pat, and I'll talk about that one there. It's close at hand, but people now are moving down to the rest of the commemoration. I'd just like to say and thank you, Pat, for being again given the privilege and the honour to be up here to do the commentary for this most important day. And I thank all the people that have made it their mission to be here today to support our troops.
What does the rest of Anzac Day mean for you?
Oh, look, I'm 70 now. In my younger days, I'd go on and join the troops and have a couple of ginger beers, of course. I think I'll just go up to the museum for an hour or so, have a cup of coffee, and I'm up at Blue Water, so I'll probably just go home and sit down and watch all the various services at Billy's, Bretton, around the world.
That's right. Well, it is wonderful to share this day with you. Major John Lavery retired, so thank you very much for your contribution once again. I think it really adds such value, and I can tell the way that you're passionate about these things with the military history. And you were telling me before we had the microphones in front of us today that, in fact, you've done a bit of digging on the history of the Black Hats. You know, these sorts of things, they just chip away at you, don't you? And you've got to go and scratch that itch, find the answer, and find out, well, why do they wear the black hats?
Well, I read somewhere, and look, I don't know if it's true, it could be just hearsay, but it originated from one of the French units. Also, being black, because they're in armoured vehicles, in those days vehicles, obviously the grease and the dirt didn't show on the black hat. Now, I have a lot of Armour Corps people will probably chase me down and annihilate me by saying that, but it's just that I read. But it's a proud history and good to see.
Indeed. All right, well, I think that might just about be our bit for today. I might hand you back to Michael Clark and Susan Graham Ryan for a few more minutes.